It is my pleasure to welcome you. My name is Daniel Cairns, and I'm the Head of Enrolments here at FourthRev. Today, I am based in Australia, so it is tonight, but today we will be going through a quick overview of the program for those that haven't spoken yet with an enrolment advisor. We will get through the content, we'll go through the application process and entry criteria, but this is all about you engaging with also a very special guest, a current student studying the program, and we'll introduce Andreas after I've given that overview. I've got some questions for Andreas, and then we really encourage and welcome your input and your questions, but please do make sure that they go in the Q&A box, which is just down below in the middle, not so much in the chat, because I'll be monitoring the Q&A box as we go through the process. This event will be recorded, obviously, as you're aware, on entry, for the purposes of sending a recording to those that couldn't make it today, and further opportunities to send that message to others in the future as well. But please strap yourselves in. We're going to have a great discussion around what is a truly innovative program. To get started, I think what we will do is, just for those that aren't aware, also very, very quickly, FourthRev empowers learners for high digital growth careers. So we deliver life-changing learning experiences that combine the best of career-focused education built with leading technology companies, but with the academic rigor, value and certification of the world's best universities, and obviously in this case with the London School of Economics and Political Science. When we designed the program, though, we did want to get an understanding of industry's needs first. So we partner with industry to understand their requirements first, and then taking that with LSE to put their world-class academic underpinnings to it. And the resultant outcome is this 6-month online, part-time, but extremely practical Career Accelerator. It is made up of 4 components. There are 3 courses that make up the bulk of the learning, and then an industry project at the end that enables learners to practically apply learning and introduce further networking opportunities directly with industry. Each course runs for 6 weeks, with a week's reflection in between. Course 1 is data analytics for business. In that, learners cover Excel and SQL in particular. Course 2, the next 6-week block, is data analytics with Python. And then course 3 is advanced analytics and organizational impact. In that unit, there's some more Python, but then also you dive quite deep into R. As I said, the learning outcomes then enable your participation in a live employer-facing project towards the end. To frame that quickly for you, teams of 4 or 5 high-caliber students will meet with one of our industry or employer partners who'll present to you a scenario in which they currently experience or have on the horizon. And collaboratively as a team, you'll come up with innovative and tangible solutions to that scenario, applying the learning and the skills developed over those 3 courses. Presenting then your recommendations and innovative solutions back to the industry partner in a consultancy style presentation at the end. The benefits of that are numerous. It is a practical way to apply your new skills. It is a fantastic way to more deeply network and develop a network with your other high caliber peers. It is brilliant to also be introduced to leaders of industry who are looking to recruit talent from the program. And finally, in an interview sense, be that for an internal promotion or be that a new role, it is a much more powerful demonstration of your value to that prospective role or employer than an exam result can ever be. That is also why we don't have any exams throughout the course of the program, those 3 courses. You're instead empowered to develop a portfolio of skills and utilising tools such as GitHub to demonstrate those skills through presentations and projects to employers. It's much more productive in its outcome that way. At FourthRev, we actually pride ourselves in the service that you receive throughout the program. You'll receive that service in a number of ways. But firstly, you'll be assigned a success manager. The success manager is pivotal in the relationship and your success in the program, as they are very proactive in their support of you. They will reach out to you when required. You'll meet with them on a video chat very regularly. You'll lean on them for any words of advice and motivational tips to help you through. And also, in addition to that, and what we find outside of the learning outcomes as to the greatest benefit of this model of education called the Career Accelerator, is the addition of an executive style career coach enabling your rapid progression. These are experienced career coaches. They will go through a very structured process at the commencement of the program of taking you through a week-long goal setting process, learning about you as a person, your values, and then aligning their coaching of you towards your intended outcome. And the results of that we see already are just inspiring. We've had amazing outcomes from both application of learning already and also the coaching outcomes. And two very, very quick examples of that that spring to my mind, because I love these examples. A young lady that was a migrant to the UK that studied her bachelor and moved to then Dublin. She was in a junior role and struggling to get traction with recruiters or employers to take the next step in her career. She enrolled into the Career Accelerator, and through the coaching, redefined her online presence and resume presence to much more greatly highlight the skills that she was going through within the program and obtaining. And within 1 weekend, received 6 approaches from recruitment firms. She applied for what was her dream job, and it was a 5-step interview process that she did have to go through for that dream job. It's actually at Spotify. And she got it through the assistance of her career coach. But it's also, I guess, that's a brilliant outcome as far as we're concerned. And we're seeing more than 80% of the students within the first presentation that commenced last January have already achieved their intended outcome. And others are obviously either working towards that or are in the role that they're satisfied with, but applying the learning to their role. She had a great opportunity of applying the learning within the first 3 months, where she wrote a program within her, using her skill set within SQL, and made a fantastic efficiency within the business within the first little while of commencing. The other one for me is one of the greatest applications of learning that I've heard. We had a student that worked in supply chain logistics for a humanitarian organisation. He actually overlaid his data sets that he developed, analysing conflict zones with Africa and trends relating to that. And now he can overlay that program to any emerging conflict to recommend that organisation get those medical supplies to the areas they're needed ahead of time, not only saving lives by having those medical supplies at the right place at the right time, but also saving that organisation from putting their own people at risk of trying to get supplies into a conflict zone during a time of conflict, which for me and for us here at FourthRev and for everyone else is one of the most amazing outcomes we can ever imagine. So the support is extensive, both the success manager and the career coach. Next, I'll just touch briefly on the entry criteria. It does require a bachelor. There's 3 ways to apply for the program, I should say first. The path of least resistance, shall I say, or the requirement academically is a completed bachelor degree with at least 1 unit of quantitative studies. Then if that isn't obtained, then we can look at work history. And if there's a related role of more than 3 years, that can be acceptable on reference as a pathway to entry. Or we do have an aptitude test that people can sit to assess their eligibility and acceptance into the program that way. In addition to one of those 3 pathways to entry, we do ask for a 1-page personal statement. And that's a really, really important part of the application process, because not only does it enable us to assess your application as a whole, but it also enables the success manager, for example, and certainly the career coach, to read your personal statement, to learn a little bit more about who you are, and to use any empathy required early on in their coaching of you, or just get an understanding of what it is that you are striving to achieve. Then next, we have a range of options available for students in terms of not only a headstart package that you've been made aware of and that I will touch on towards the end, but also payment plans. And there's a considerable 10% discount to the fees for those electing to pay up front. Or secondly, we can offer extended payment plans over a 6, 9 or 12 monthly payment period with no fees and no interest associated with those payment plans as well. It commences on the 30th, the next presentation commences on the 30th of January. There is an onboarding process that really sets you up for success. You'll go through developing your individualised study plans. You'll meet your peers and get an understanding of a really strong sense of community that we develop within the program, which is brilliant for you to meet other like-minded individuals from the UK and abroad, and then go through that goal-setting process as well. Lastly, before I do introduce my guest that I'm most excited to do, my first question to our guest, Andreas, will be a little bit of an icebreaker question, but I'll ask myself that first. What did I want to become when I was young? I originally thought I would become a chef, and I certainly achieved that in a long, long time ago. But it's interesting on reflection as to how many pivots our careers can take, that I actually used the skills obtained on the first day in a 5-star hotel that I worked in how we deliver and how we treat you with the empathy required and the customer service that you deserve when we speak with your enrolment advisors about your life decision. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome Andreas to the webinar. Andreas Yiallouros studied a degree in accounting, finance and economics. He then went on to do a Masters of Psychology. When he started the Career Accelerator this year, he was the Senior Audit Manager of NatWest Group. I'm actually not going to say what you are now, Andreas. I'm going to ask you the icebreaker question, and then I'm going to ask about your new role. Welcome, thank you ever so kindly. And Andreas, may I first ask, when you were younger, did you ever think that you'd be in a data-focused role, or what was it that you thought you would be?
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many people joining today. So when I was that's a great question. So when I was a child, I remember always being into science. So at some point, I was thinking about becoming a medical doctor. And then my dad was an accountant. He was my hero. And I think that's how I ended up going for economics for my first degree and doing a professional qualification in accounting. I think with hindsight, I can see, and I can also remember some funny little episodes with my friends when I was maybe 10 years old, and they were making fun of me for always citing the evidence and the data. So with hindsight, I'm not surprised that I'm doing this course at the moment. I'm more surprised why it took me so long. But yeah, I think I always had it in me, Daniel.
That's fantastic. I love that, and I love the fact you said your dad's your hero. That's wonderful. You are also married, and you've already let me know that you've got a beautiful young pooch or a small dog in the family as well. We completely understand in the remote way in which we work and what would welcome that dog to jump onto your lap at any time. But before we get into questions, I'd love to remind everyone to please pop your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box, because I will be monitoring the Q&A box. So I've got some questions right now for Andreas, but I really want to get to your questions that are pertinent to you as quickly as possible as well. Senior Audit Manager at NatWest Group, then in April when you commenced the Career Accelerator, your journey to find the Career Accelerator, and I guess the impact it's had in you securing a new role.
So when I joined the course, there were already a number of elements of my current job, as in I haven't yet moved into my new role. That's going to happen in January. So in my current role as a senior manager in internal audit at NatWest Group, there is plenty of scope to use data science to reach more robust conclusions. Ultimately, it's all about adding value to the organization and our customers, as well as doing that in the most efficient possible way. So plenty of scope and projects that are available in my current role. However, because I am quite interested in psychology and human behavior, and I've been looking for opportunities to move my career in that direction. Having enrolled into the course was the catalyst to actually be able to make the move into my new role, which is going to be senior manager in people and transformation. It's the longest title in the world ever. Customer and colleague journeys. It goes even longer, behavioral science and applied psychology. So that's, for me, it's my dream job, because it's using my background and current skill set together with my knowledge from my master's recently in psychology and my new skills in data science.
Brilliant. Congratulations. All the best for the new role. I'm sure you'll make an impact in the application of learning from all of your education previously, but hopefully especially the Career Accelerator. We have some fantastic questions coming through, and I'm really looking forward to getting to them. And one that I'll actually ask myself as well, because I'm keen to know, with other pressing life dependencies and important things going on with work, how do you fit study in? I mean, you're an experienced learner, but how do you fit study in with your life, and how is, I guess, the course enabling you to do that?
That's a great question. So for me, I'm a morning person, so I'm much more productive in my learning and ability to absorb new information in the morning compared to the evening. So I plan to start my day early and put in a couple of hours of study in the morning before I start my my work from my job. And then I have specific days where I plan to have longer sessions, always trying to maximize the time I have available in the morning. So weekends for me are quite important because I have a full-time job, but also I had some support from NatWest, and I was able to get 2 or 3 days of study leave effectively for each of the 3 courses so far, which I used to study. So my advice to anyone would be to try and figure out, if you don't know already, what's your most productive time for learning, and plan your day accordingly. Like it is like, for some people who might be in a part-time job or not working, I think it should be very easy to follow the course. Anyone like me who is holding a full-time job and only getting perhaps a couple of days of study leave per course, I think it's really important to plan your weeks so that you can fit in the study.
That's fantastic advice, and some people are obviously productive of the evening, some in the morning, some have support of their employers, and obviously some don't. There is sacrifice in terms of priorities to achieve such rapid career outcomes and learning outcomes within a 6-month program, but that's the same as anything worthwhile as well. We firmly believe that, obviously, and your testament to the return on that can be quite not only beneficial but life-changing in the career sense as well. Back to that change that you've undertaken or are about to undertake with a new role, the career coaching I mentioned earlier, what impact do you feel that your career coach has had in guiding you towards achieving your intended outcome and landing that new role?
Well, my career coach is amazing. It's been a fantastic experience from the very first introduction and conversation. Like you said earlier, Daniel, my career coach, Fred, used my personal statement as his starting point. So I was impressed in our first conversation how much he had already distilled from my relatively brief personal statement and how well prepared he was to have a conversation. But also, very importantly, he always makes sure that our conversations are based on my agenda and based on what I want to discuss and my thoughts and aspirations and goals. It's been very practical. So he gave me lots of tools that I have used. For example, I really loved one short read that he provided for me in negotiation. So I'll say, yeah, fantastic. And in terms of boosting my confidence to use my data skills on my job was also an important factor. I'm not sure if I would have actually done, because one thing I didn't mention earlier is that in my current role, I was actually able to use my skills from course 1 to prepare a report for the executive committee of the audit function, which went down really well. And I think what my career coach was actually quite instrumental in giving me the confidence to go ahead and do that.
That is absolutely brilliant. I love hearing that. And the practical nature of the program, have you also found that throughout all 3 courses as to how practical is it? Can you apply the learning straight away in most of the tools that you're using? We've got some questions coming through about the tools, but is that the case with all of the learning outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. The course is 100% practical. That was actually a key deciding factor for me to enroll for the program. It's extremely, extremely practical. I really like, my favorite part of the course is the assignments at the end of each course. I really loved going through the assignments. And actually, one thing to mention, people might be aware of this already, but the assignments build from 1 week to the next. So it's not like you have to do an assignment and you have the last week or 2 weeks of the course. It's very nicely introduced from week 1, and then you build your assignment throughout each of the 6-week courses. But in addition to the assignment, the course is entirely based on practical application of knowledge. Just this pattern of, you get a bit of a demonstration for a concept, and then plenty of opportunity to apply what you have learned. So yeah, extremely practical to the degree that I could take what I learned and use it in my job at NatWest.
That's a good point, and it's so different to the often traditional learning model of content revision examination, which decides the outcome of pass or fail, whereas here you get guidance and opportunity, I guess, to develop that as you go, knowing that you're either on the right track or you need to adjust as you go. Let's get to some other questions very, very quickly. I've only got 1 or 2 more myself, but how your peers, tell me about those that you're studying with. I know it's from myself, my own perspective, I know the diverse nature of the backgrounds of people in the industries But tell me about the calibre of student and the interaction that you have with them.
So the student community is a very important part of the experience as a learner. There is a lot of encouragement from the course coordinators for the students to engage with each other, learn from each other. The course is designed a lot like that, so there are a lot of structured opportunities to have that engagement and learning with each other, including peer review assignments or mini assignments as part of each course, where you submit a small piece of your work, and once you've made your submission, you receive in return one or two pieces of work from your peers to review. So you provide feedback, and then you get feedback from your peers on that particular piece of work. There's also an online chat forum where people post questions, share additional resources that they have found helpful. And in those online chat forums, the instructors participate as well. So they very consistently and helpfully step in and provide their expert insights and advice. In terms of the caliber of the students, it's fantastic. I've been able to connect with not just through the course, but also starting to connect professionally as well on LinkedIn and have conversations beyond the core subjects of the course. Yeah, quite a diverse set of backgrounds, and really good setting for establishing a network of like-minded people who are like-minded, but at the same time quite diverse. So it's ideal.
That's fantastic, and that dovetails beautifully into the first question I'm going to take from the audience. Let me just scroll down to it because I think it related to exactly that. Let me just bring up that one in particular. Someone asked regarding the commencement of the program. Here it is. Mike, thank you, Mike. Whilst we recommend anyone that commences the program has an intermediate knowledge of Excel and particularly pivot tables and so forth, so you're not learning that when you're actually commencing the program, you're hitting the ground running, so to speak. We'll teach the rest. But do you think it's easy for someone or for someone that has zero coding experience?
I wouldn't say it's easy. It depends on your definition of easy.
Yes.
But I would say with, so for me, it was my first experience coding. I hadn't written a line of code before starting this course. My Excel level was, I would say, average. I'm not an expert, or I wasn't an expert in Excel either. So the key advice I would give to someone who, like me, had zero experience in coding and started this course is to trust the program. So at the beginning, you will be typing code that you have been given. It might not make sense. Why am I typing this? The key is not to give up at that stage. It's normal. I've heard lots of expert coders, not just through the course, but much more widely as well, who had exactly that experience. It's a bit, I think, one great analogy that I heard from one of the coders who actually, you can find him in a number of of podcasts as well. His name is Matan Griffel, and he started coding, I think, in his 20s. It's a bit like when you are a baby or a small child and you're learning, you're just imitating the adults doing something. You might be picking up the phone and pretending to talk. You don't really know what you're doing, but you're doing it anyway. If you keep that mindset, I'm just doing what the program is telling me to do, and trust that I'm doing the right thing, after a couple of weeks, it will click and it will make sense. So I would say at this stage now, so having done course 2, which was Python, and now being towards the end of course 3, I'm very comfortable with coding. I wouldn't describe myself as a coder, but I can almost point to the minute that experience of having that click in my mind and everything falling into place and making sense. So I know I've been kind of rambling on a bit. My kind of concise answer is, if you have zero experience in coding, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just trust the system, follow the program, and you'll be okay.
Brilliant advice. I thoroughly hung on every word then, because it's a great analogy. Learning a new language is exactly what we're embarking on. Let's get through some other quick questions quickly. I guess you've touched on, well, no, not so much. Veronica's asked, will it be difficult for those who are not so data conscious in studying the course? And we won't go into salary ranges. We can discuss that with you, Veronica. There's a lot of data that we can provide in relation to that. But will this course be a good stepping stone for changing one's career field? Just before yourself, Andreas, we have 3 types of learners doing the program. We do have some career starters that have finished their degrees, looking to accelerate their entry into the workforce or consolidate the roles that they're in. We do have the majority, though, 80% of our students are career changes or career advances. So yes, it is designed in many ways, Veronica, for those looking to change careers, but to have the rigor behind it that enables you with confidence to go for those roles that you're seeking, to achieve a higher salary and therefore a return on your educational investment through that accelerated learning option that we do provide, and the coaching, obviously. So I'd say 40% of your peers would probably be looking to change careers. Would that be fair, Andreas?
I'm not that familiar with the statistics in that, but it does sound about right, yeah.
I'm not sure about this one. I guess you've touched on this already. There is a question as to why you chose psychology after your undergraduate degree, but I guess you've already mentioned that you had such an interest in it, and now that's parlaying into your new role.
Yeah, there's a bit more to it. So in banking, so I've been in the banking industry since 2007. So I joined the banking industry just in time for the financial crash of 2008. I don't know to what degree people remember that or experience that as a big event in history, but in my experience, it was huge. We came close to a complete meltdown of financial services for the entire planet. And in the aftermath of kind of looking what went wrong, how could things go so wrong, and as far as most people were concerned, kind of out of the blue, there weren't any big signs ahead of the crash. And what came out as the answer to how could things go so wrong was, well, you can have as many rules and regulations as you like to keep banking safe, but people will be people, and unless you understand psychology and you understand behavior and what drives behavior, people are clever enough to always find ways around any regulations that you put in place. So together with I always had an interest in psychology, but with psychology and behavioral science becoming actually an area of focus for the banking industry, that was my motivation to go on and do a part-time master's in psychology, which I finished in 2020. So it took me a bit of time to go through and come to the decision to do the master's in psychology. But for me, it's a key, together with data skills, behavioral science skills, for me personally, the most valuable tools I have in my toolkit to help the organization where I work.
And that's brilliant. Thank you. And just on that as well, do you feel your background in finance was essential? And I know there's many students that aren't in finance, and there are many, but Lee has asked, do you feel that your background in finance was essential? And that might dovetail into one other question. Does one need to be in data analytics role to better understand the course? That's from Anonymous, who is in finance.
Yeah.
So do you have to be, did being in finance help, and do you need data analytics prior to commencing? You've already touched on that.
Being in finance helped, but I think being in any industry, I think could probably have been equally helpful, or starting as a kind of start of my career and going through the course. The key foundation that I think is essential is the ability to ask questions, which I think innately we all have that ability to ask questions. And then kind of a meta skill, asking questions about the questions is also very important, because sometimes, or not sometimes, but almost 100% of the time, someone will ask you a question. So in the course, like case studies, it's one of the features I like. One of the small details is that you get the case study, you get the question that the client is asking or your boss is asking, and you're trying to help with, but that question is not perfectly formulated. So one of the skills is to reformulate the question. So for me, that's the foundation that you need. Obviously, having a background in finance and audit, or accounting, economics, in my case, it's something that it's a concept I was familiar with in a professional capacity. But I think as a concept, it's something that everyone grasps innately. It's something that we do naturally. When it matters, we want to understand the question, where it's coming from, why are we asking the question. We don't just go ahead and do something without understanding the question. So I think for me, that's the key skill that underlies the whole premise of data science.
That's brilliant. Martin has asked, on that application, how do you now apply Python, SQL, Tableau, etc. in your internal audit role?
Tableau is the first application I used in my job to visualize data in a much simpler way compared to how it was visualized previously, and that's what I used for my presentation to the executive committee. That went down really well, that I mentioned earlier. Python at the moment, it's mainly in natural language processing. So we have this huge database with descriptions of controls that we have at the bank, and it's literally thousands. It's near 10,000 entries or records in that database with lots of different features. So to try and do that analysis of that database without Python or R could be used as well for this purpose, would be a massively inefficient and inferior quality attempt. So that's the other area where I'm using directly something I'm learning at the course in my day-to-day job.
Fantastic. Another quick question, couple of questions. We've got 8 minutes or so. How much of advanced statistics and machine learning is in the program? Someone's asked.
So course 3, especially the first 3 weeks of course 3, are very much about statistics and advanced Python, which is basically data science or machine learning. So yeah, you don't get much of statistics beyond the basic levels until you get to course 3. And then, yeah, course 3 has been my favorite so far. So I'm sure the employer project will be thrilling as well. But the statistics and machine learning has been fascinating to go through. And I would say it's quite comprehensive. So from comparing the content of the course with external sources that cover machine learning end-to-end, including resources referred to in the course, I can see that the content of the course is very comprehensive. I guess this might be a good time to also mention one key feature of the course, and just basically one thing that comes up over and over again in the weekly masterclass sessions is that the course will give students an excellent foundation in pretty much everything that there is to know about data science, but then there's a lot of additional benefit to be gained by continuous learning after the end of the course and application of what you learn in the course in projects that you will have in your real life outside of the learning environment.
And that's where the value lies as well, isn't it? That's really pertinent to mention. And I did forget to mention earlier, the delivery is actually live. There is a live facilitated academic delivery session that you mentioned once per week for about 2 hours or so. Those sessions are always recorded should one not be able to attend live, but I'm sure you would agree the benefit is in the live attendance and engagement with both the facilitators and your fellow students. I've got, it's brilliant to see some questions, and if anyone wants to get their last ones in, we'll get through as many of these as we can. Rutba asks, have you used any of these platforms or tools to perform benchmarks such as pricing, scrape factors and yield analysis for internal audits? I guess you've answered that in a way, but if there's anything else you can add.
No, I haven't had the opportunity to do benchmarking yet, but I'm sure it won't be long before I'm doing something along those lines.
Orly would like to consider how to prepare herself for the program. She's returning to work after being a full-time mum, which we love, and some of the greatest success stories that are coming out the other side of the program are especially return to work mums. We are really, really proud of the equality, the gender equality that we have in the program. Over the first 4 presentations, it's actually 50-50, and I'm sure yours is quite similar. But is there anything you would do in preparation of the program if you had a month or 2 up your sleeve? Is it Excel if one didn't know Excel?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on, so if you take the different applications covered by the course, starting with Excel, SQL, Tableau, and then moving to Python and R, I think they are broadly in order of going from the simpler, easier to learn to the more complex, challenging. So depending on how you feel with your current level of skill in those applications, start. There's plenty of, and happy to share as well my top recommendations for additional resources, both like depending on your learning preference. I would like, for me personally, I quite like some of the books that are available from the people who have developed programs like Python or libraries within Python. So there's some excellent resources available which come fully supplemented with data sets that you can download online, and instructions how to install Python or R on your computer and get going. So if you have time, then I would recommend looking into some of those resources. But at the same time, I would say that's not like it. You will be absolutely fine if you start the course tomorrow and you just go with the material provided by the course. The course is very well designed to ease you into the material, and you should be okay to just follow the course from the start without needing to do a lot of additional preparation in advance.
Wonderful. I'm going to answer a couple of quick ones now. I do want to give an overview or an example of an industry project before I ask your 3 top tips for deciding whether to apply for the course. Anonymous has asked, is there a written exam? Do you pass each course? What's the grading process? No, there's not. We will send the recording, but we touched on it earlier. You build a portfolio of evidence through projects and presentations, and build that as you go through the 6-week course, each of the 6-week courses. There's also a question from Rachel regarding the duration. We are looking at the possibility of extending out it's not confirmed as yet, but it's certainly something that we're acting on from feedback, although the program is designed for that rapid career impact. So there is that short-term commitment and sacrifice over just over 6-month period to obtain those intended outcomes. And I can ask that you book a time, Rachel, with your enrolment advisor to discuss additional payment plans. Anonymous has asked, do you think the core skills could be transferred into other fields, medical research, for example? Absolutely. There's many students that aren't in finance at all. They're in all sorts of fields, as I mentioned before. One's in an analytical role within the music sector or streaming services. One's in transport and logistics. I see a lot of people from the medical profession enrolling into the program. If you think about how many industries are impacted with, well, the use of now data, but are transitioning for the digital economy, there's not many that it wouldn't be relevant for, in my opinion. Joshua, we've gone over, I guess, the machine learning and AI to a degree. Apologies for being brief on this one. So Neil's asked, what percentage of the course would you say is practical application of learning? I'll ask that you answer that one.
I'll say between 95 and 100%. It's very extremely practical.
And I guess the other thing is it's business focused in the application of being practical. It's not just the technical learning, it's the business application of that for the modern workplace and for the digital economy that we've designed it for already. Let me just see if there's any others. We've got a few things to get through. Graduate schemes. Pedro's asked how intense the last weeks are. You're going through that now, and we've spread that last course out for the 2 weeks enabling that. But Pedro's circumstances are that he's looking to commence a graduate scheme in May, June. Do you feel he'll be able to do the graduate scheme whilst doing course 3 like you are now? It depends on the individual.
Yeah, so I can only speak from my personal kind of experience and circumstances, and I guess background comes into this as well. So for me, course 3 actually feels like the most relaxed out of the 3, because for me the hardest was course 2 and getting up the learning curve with Python, which was I knew of Python before the course, but I had never written any Python code or any code at all for that matter. So for me, course 2 was the most intense in terms of effort to learn the basics of Python. But for course 3, even though it's got the advanced Python and there's a fair bit of statistical concepts in there, because I now understand how coding works and I know how to approach learning new coding skills. Course 3 has been fairly straightforward and relaxed compared to course 2 and course 1, even course 1.
Pedro, go for it. Your future will thank you for it to combine both. I guess that's the other thing to consider, Pedro, is when you're applying the learning through the infancy of your career, you are taking a step above those that haven't had this exposure, this practical learning, but also the interactions with peers of the calibre of Andreas as well. I do want to touch on the project because someone's asked a really deep question about the final project. How large is it? And I'll answer this obviously with an example because you're undertaking this early in the new year. But they were asking, how large is the data set? Was it purely quantitative or qualitative? What tools have you used to analyse the data? And at the completion of the project presentation of the data set, development of an automated tool for further analysis. To answer that very quickly, they are in general big data projects. There is a mix of qualitative, but also mostly quantitative. All the tools that you embark on, you're encouraged to apply in various ways as a part of the team. Lastly, the example that I'll give is that the students worked with ThoughtWorks on a project relating to the City of London and Transport for London's 2041 goal of having 80% of trips made within London be made by bicycle, public transport or foot. What the students were tasked with was developing the programs to measure the progress towards that. So you can imagine the data sets relating to that from every breadth and width of available data to enable that. It was quite an undertaking, but it's seen amazing outcomes as well. I'm going to ask one last question of yourself, and thank you. Apologies to those that I couldn't get to. I really, really appreciate so much engagement from you, the audience. We will send around the recording, but I think the best thing that you could do, in my firm advice, is to book a time with your specialist enrolment advisor that is going to treat your inquiry with a great deal of empathy. I think you had Joshua from memory, Andreas, but yeah. your top tip or top 2 or 3 tips on deciding whether to apply for the program.
So deciding whether to apply for the program, top tips would be clear on why you're doing the program. Like, have a clear vision and goal and what you want to get out of the program. That would be my top tip. Then number 2 would be just be confident that you will be able to find the time and maintain the discipline to stay with the program and follow. I'd say on that as well, making sure that you will engage with the community and with the support that's available from the tutors and the success manager and the career coach. But also be ready to have some fun as well. So I think it's really important to come into the course with a mindset of you'll be getting some amazing new skills in data analytics, but at the same time, it's a very exciting area of knowledge, and I think be prepared to have your way of thinking challenged and changed as well. So a tip would be like, make sure that you're ready for that mindset shift as well.
Brilliant.
Which I would say I probably wasn't expecting me to be saying this when I was starting the course back in spring or early summer, but it has actually changed my my way of thinking quite a lot in a very beneficial way, not just for my job but also for my personal life as well.
That is powerful, and that's the growth of you as a person, and the life skills embedded alongside the technical, the business application, and the career advancement. What you just said sums up exactly why we've designed the program the way we have. Very quickly, just to round off a few other things, we have, for those in attendance, extended the very popular Headstart package for 2023, in which you will obtain an additional career coaching session to really frame your 2023 and get started on the right foot, along with an exclusive webinar in January. And LSE are also providing a hoodie to get you through what I understand is very bitterly cold times there in the UK at the moment. It's a little bit opposite here, thankfully. So please reach out to your enrolment advisor if you haven't already. They are there to guide you through every step of that process and explain that in more detail. We are also always seeking feedback, and Andreas, you'd see this all the time. At the end of every course, there's an opportunity to provide feedback. We do the same with this webinar. We do want you to fill out the feedback form that will arrive as well. And lastly, I think from my perspective to the audience, thank you so much. It's been brilliant to see so much engagement. I apologise again if there's a few questions we didn't get to, but I loved reading the in-depth questions and the time that you've considered. And I guess you're making a very positive step by attending today towards your future career advancement through learning what has been an amazing learning journey from you, Andreas. I want to thank you also for your time. It's been brilliant to witness your journey, and I certainly look forward to witnessing the furthering of your career from now on as well. Congratulations on what you've achieved.
Pleasure. Thank you.
That's it for us today. I wish everyone a safe festive season. Thank you once again, everyone. We will host more of these given the engagement levels that we've had. We hope to see you shortly. Book a time with your enrolment advisor and make a positive decision your future will thank you for. Have a great day.